Hello and welcome to the multi-cloud security section. My name is Mark Simos, lead cybersecurity architect with Microsoft. Marcello?
Hi, my name is Marcello. I'm a chief security advisor at Microsoft, and it's really a pleasure to be here with you guys to talk about security in hybrid and multi-cloud environments, right? Well, Mark, we know that the future is hybrid, right? So more than the future, the present. Most organizations today operate in a very complex environment. 81% of the CISOs say that their organization are implementing a hybrid work model. So in this case, it's really important to use cloud-native secure controls, right? So cross-cloud and cross-platform capabilities that integrate with your current solutions. I mean, in the real world, you're going to need to protect different kinds of devices, right? Workstations, servers, mobile phones, with all types of operating systems, right? Like Linux, Android, Windows, Mac OS, and iOS, right? So this is a big challenge, right?
Yeah, it's everybody's pretty much got the enterprise of everything. There's very few organizations that aren't in, most of the clouds or don't have Windows, Linux, and probably older operating systems as well. It's pretty much the nature of any reasonably large size enterprise.
Yeah, well, and in this case, you must implement security in different applications, services, technologies, and also have visibility, implement secure controls and best practices across software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, Azure, GCP, AWS, and on-premise, right? So the challenge is so big, right, Mark?
Oh, I'm glad my job is to advise CISOs and help them through it rather than to actually be there, because it is quite a challenge. Absolutely.
Yeah. And especially when we think about IT and OT convergency. So we really need to protect IoT devices, SCADA systems, ICS, PCN, and different operational technologies, right? So we have learned that organizations have exposure to IoT and OT security risks through either or both of common systems like HVAC systems, security cameras, data centers, so specialized network enabled equipment for manufacturing, power generation, healthcare. So IoT security is also a big challenge, right, Mark?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the attackers have figured out that it all connects via IP, which is convenient for us as enterprise, people. But when you look at it from the attacker's perspective, it's even more convenient because you don't have the same set of security controls and monitoring on those devices. And so find a firmware vuln and boom, you've got a nice operating platform that probably isn't being watched that closely. So it's definitely a challenging space for organizations.
Yeah. And Mark, can you share with us how can Microsoft leverage the insights and threat intelligence that we have today to help our customers?
Yeah, I mean, this is a problem that our customers have because pretty much every organization or almost every organization is a Microsoft customer, and so the thing that we found that we can do is we can really bring what we've got in terms of threat intelligence, industry partnerships, with organizations like NIST and CIS and the Open Group, where Jericho Forum was actually hosted and established. And law enforcement and all sorts of these organizations, and like how can we bring all of those partnerships, all of that intelligence to help protect these, and through the course of acquisitions and some natively built technology, Microsoft is really focusing on sort of that end-to-end view. How do you protect this sort of hybrid of everything, this converged enterprise? Because the attackers are freely moving around it, whether it's IT, OT, IoT. How do you bring all that together and protect that, regardless of whatever operating system, et cetera, it's on? And so that's really our focus is making sure that we are protecting the enterprise that organizations have. Everything from that people through all of the technology stack and the preventive controls into the detection, monitoring, response of security operations, or SOC as some call it.
Cool. Well, and for this case, Microsoft, it's important to mention that Microsoft builds security for the enterprise and technology you have. So it's not just security for Microsoft technology, right, Mark?
Oh yeah, that's one of the biggest things that we run into as we're talking with different organizations is, once they're like, wait, Microsoft isn't security, which was kind of a problem like 5 years ago. The second thing was, okay, well, you secure your stuff, but you don't secure Linux, right? You think it's a cancer or something. It's like, no, Microsoft secures the enterprise you have, right? And we kind of got over that, right? And we're in a whole different world now. And really, it's because customers are the hybrid of everything. We've got to secure customers and what they've got. And so that's a huge focus for us, is to make sure that is a complete set of capabilities to really have this really end-to-end integrated view across it, across all these different disciplines, because security itself is complex. But when you do one thing, you want to do one thing across your entire estate.
Yeah, so we focus on providing the security capabilities organizations need to reduce risk in multi-cloud and cross-platform. So the enterprise and the environment that you have, right? And so I think it's important to share with you guys that Microsoft's multi-cloud and cross-platform security starts with endpoints, cloud visibility, and control, right? So the Microsoft Endpoint Manager, for instance, includes services and tools that you need to manage and monitor mobile devices, desktop computers, virtual machines, embedded devices, servers, across, as we said, different platforms, Mac, Android, iOS, Windows operating systems. So at the end of the day, Microsoft Endpoint Manager helps you deliver the modern secure workplace to keep your data secure in the cloud and on premises, right? And we also have Azure Security Center, right, Mark? So Azure Security Center is a unified infrastructure security management system that provides secure insights and advanced threat protection across hybrid workloads. Can you talk a little bit more about that for us, Security Center, and how Security Center can help the customers to implement more security multi-cloud environments?
Absolutely, yeah. So, with security, you always got to start with the basics, right? And one of my favorite parts about the cloud is it does make the basics easier, right? Because what used to be a physical data center with a 19-inch rack, and you had to badge into it or key into the room, and to be able to do physical inventory, et cetera, it's all software defined now. And Azure Security Center really takes full advantage of that. Like, as you mentioned earlier, with the cloud native capabilities, we started with Azure, of course, but now we've expanded to AWS and GCP and on-premise and everywhere else. But the idea here is that you want to be able to just have on-demand reporting of, am I patched? Am I configured correctly? Are my VMs exposed to the internet? Are my containers exposed directly to the internet when they should be actually, going through, a proxy or whatnot, or a web application firewall? And so really that kind of basic security hygiene for both, client endpoints as well as server endpoints, it's, the cloud technology makes it so much easier to do it, with the Azure Security Center really being focused on that cloud security posture management, of course, workload protection.
And I also like to say that Security Center does everything at cloud speed, right? And why? Because it's natively integrated, right? So the deployment is easy and provides without provisioning and protection, as you mentioned, in Azure services, AWS, GCP, and in addition, Azure Security Center provides cloud secure posture management and also cloud workload protection capabilities, right?
Yeah, it's not just security of the cloud, it's security from the cloud. So you get the benefits of all of that elasticity and speed and instant scalability for security, which is really cool because we get to play with the toys that the IT people have had for a few years now.
Yeah. And well, Microsoft also provides integrate capabilities, right, for secure operation centers. So we know that the secure operation centers, they have a challenge, right? They need to measure, they need to monitor, they need to respond. So we have capabilities that will help the secure operation centers to improve visibility, to detect and hunt and respond, and also recover to threats across clouds and across platforms, right? So Azure Sentinel is the first cloud native SIEM, and it was entirely reinvented for the modern world, right? So Azure Sentinel can ingest logs from any source, correlates them using machine learning and user entity behavior analytics, reducing false positives and also improving incident response with its secure orchestration and automation, right? Response capabilities, right? So can you talk a little bit more? How can the Sentinel integrate with XDR, con endpoint detection response? How this integration can help our customers to improve visibility and response capabilities?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the way that Microsoft thinks about this whole space is it's a broad and deep. And we've had for the longest time SIMS, right? Or SIEMS, depending on how you like to pronounce it, which is really a broad view, take in all the logs, et cetera. And Azure Sentinel really does that and does that well. But it really goes beyond that too with SOAR and UEBA and behavior analytics, et cetera, across IT, OT, IoT. So that gives you that I have one place to look and everything will bubble up there. But we've learned that that's not enough, and that's really where XDR comes in. XDR started, extended detection response started with EDR, endpoint detection response, where we said, okay, the event logs are interesting on an endpoint, but they're not giving us the data we need. We need to be able to walk the process tree. We need to be able to look in memory. We need to be able to get all that specific information about a particular type of asset, an endpoint, and be able to generate high quality alerts so we don't waste time trying to write a query. We don't waste time with the analyst trying to figure things out. And so that's really where XDR was born, was in that EDR space. And we've taken that same concept to Azure Storage and Azure VMs and IoT and OT devices and identities and across the board, right? And so that XDR is really that deep view. So we get that SIM of Azure Sentinel, SIM plus more, and then the XDR provides that deep specific, I know this asset, I know exactly what endpoints should and shouldn't do, and on down the line. And so that combination, I think, is really powerful, especially as you get into this estate that's sprawling across clouds, across operating systems, across everything that the rest of the business is buying to try and keep up with the market. It's really crucial to have both that broad and deep visibility so that you're taking that alert fatigue off the analyst and they can actually look at this and do the human thing of figuring out what's going wrong, instead of trying to mimic a machine and doing a bunch of repetitive tasks that a machine would better do.
Yeah, so, and also Azure Defender, as we mentioned, our XDR is able to protect servers, virtual machines, app services, storage, SQL, Kubernetes, container registry, DNS, and much, much more, right? And we also have Azure Arc, right? Azure Arc extends the Azure Defender to AWS and GCP, and also on-premise resources by projecting those resources into Azure objects that enable management and security of those resources. So how can the customers use Azure Arc to improve security in different platforms and hybrid environments, Mark? It's quite new, right?
Oh yeah. So this is recent. I think it's about, at the time of the recording, about 6 months or a year or so that this has been out. But the thing I love about it is it's bringing that native security really to one coherent view and platform, because when you put the Azure Arc in there, it knows how to go and talk to the accounts in AWS and the GCP subscriptions and whatnot, project those resources in Azure so they look like normal Azure native objects. And then those VMs, those Kubernetes, the databases, you name it, start popping up, and you can apply policy, you can apply detections like XDR to them, and it just acts like it's a native Azure object. And so you get that one single view across all of your clouds, and you no longer feel like you're in that multi-cloud world of pain where you have to do this way, and this one, and this in AWS, and this in GCP, and this one in Azure. You can actually do it consistently across your entire estate, including your on-prem. And so this is one of the most exciting, powerful technologies. I love it. That kind of brings it all together and makes it kind of sane and coherent.
Nice. So, Mark, let's talk a little bit more about Azure Defender for IoT, right? So we know that the OT environment, the IT environment, we need to protect, we need to detect threats there. And using Azure Defender for IoT, customers can have more visibility, detect and respond possible attacks in operational technology, right? So like SCADA, ICS, as we mentioned. So customers can run Azure Defender, including in offline mode. That's very interesting for security isolation, or in online mode, where it integrates natively with playbooks and Azure Sentinel playbooks, right? That's very interesting, right? To use IoT Defender with Sentinel, right?
Yeah, very powerful stuff. And there is a separate OT section of the reference architecture. So lots and lots of details in there. But that same idea of let's bring it all together and under Sentinel, et cetera. Yep.
Nice. So let's talk a little bit about Microsoft 365 Defender, Mark. So Microsoft 365 Defender provide an extensive library, right, of pre-built investigation and response automation capabilities, data loss protection, web content filtering, integrated threat and vulnerability management, and much more. So customers can use this solution, again, to protect multi-cloud environments, different workloads, on-premises, different environments, and it will have just a single pane of glass that will help the Secure Operations Center to respond, detect, hunt, and everything, right? And there's another
multi-cloud isn't just PaaS and IaaS. It's actually software as a service too. So you need to bring all that visibility together as well, and the controls. Yep.
And the last piece is the cloud app security, right? So the cloud app security, Microsoft solution for a cloud app security broker, adds safeguards to customers' organizations, right? So when customers are using cloud services, they can enforce the enterprise security policies. So the solution will act as a gatekeeper, right, to broker access in real time between your enterprise, users, accessing the cloud. And for me, it's amazing because you can protect and you can detect and you can use the solution wherever your users are located, right? So regardless of the device they are using, again, we are trying to help customers protect the users and the devices, if they are on premise, if they are outside, if they are using the internet. So Microsoft Cloud App Security is a powerful solution to that, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. So I also want to remember that Microsoft Cloud App Security provides with security configuration assessments. That's very interesting for Azure, Amazon Web Services, GCP. So you can see recommendations that cover all Azure subscriptions, AWS accounts, member accounts, all GCP projects that are connected to your organization. So Cloud App Security for sure can help you have much more visibility and also enable secure admins to investigate all security configurations gaps in different clouds, right?
Oh yeah, when you get your secure score, it's for everything that we have visibility into.
Yeah, and talking about shadow ITs, that's the case, right? So Cloud App Security can help you understand your environment, what the users are doing, if they are trying to do something that is not authorized, right?
Oh yeah, if you make it too hard in security to do the right thing, users will find another way to get their job done. And so you got to be constantly looking for that shadow IT, and then reconciling it and bringing them in and showing how to keep it secure.
Yeah, and can you talk a little bit about Azure Active Directory, Mark? So I know that this is the solution that provides comprehensive solutions, right, to protect your identities. And this is a very important piece of our architecture, right?
Oh, absolutely. This is really how you get modern access control for all of these cloud resources, right? Because they're scattered all over the internet in different forms. Some of them you have network control, some of them you don't. So you need to have this really good enablement so that people can use those enterprise identities to be successful and integrate, do workflows for the business. But you also need to have that security to have that most sophisticated, advanced, threat intelligence, behavior analytics kind of enriched, assurance that this is actually the user that it's supposed to be that's actually accessing the resource. So, really important to have that there. And we've really built Azure Active Directory to be that one thing. And the cool thing is most people already have it with their Office 365. So whether or not they realize it, they've pretty much got a single sign-on for the entire, cloud world.
Yeah, and also identity security you have identity protection and you can improve identity security to those scenarios with zero trust, right? So we need to validate the access every time explicitly. We need to verify trustworthiness of devices. So all the solutions and resources we have in Azure AD will help customers to improve their identity protection. And as you mentioned, using MFA and basic configurations, customers can improve much more the security in their environment, right? Last but not least, Mark, let's talk a little bit about Microsoft Information Protection and Azure Purview. Azure Preview is one of the, it's my, I can tell you my love, right? I love the solution. I love the solution because when I was a CISO, I remember that was very difficult to identify. I used to say, my boss asked me, do we have confidential information? Yes. Where is the confidential information? How can you inventory and validate? So for me, Azure Preview is something that can really, really help customers to have a more complete life cycle, to understand the information, classify, protect, monitor everything. And again, multi-cloud, right? That's not only for Azure, that's not only for our own cloud, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that combined with the existing auto classification for Microsoft information protection using the same labels, it makes life so much easier for organizations to be able to find that data, classify it, protect it, monitor it, that whole life cycle end to end, because it you know, the what matters to the business is data and the applications, like what is important to them, that value is stored inside the data. So extremely important to get that right.
Cool. And so I want to share with you some resources that illustrate Microsoft's commitment to natively supporting cross-cloud and cross-platform environments for enterprise organizations. So people are sometimes surprised, right? So how can we protect not only Microsoft environments? So here are some highlights and illustrate some commitments like Microsoft Defender for Endpoint for Linux, Azure Solution for AWS, Azure AD Identity and Access Management for AWS, Azure Sentinel connectors for AWS and GCP. So there are a bunch of different resources that customers can use to improve their posture in multi-cloud, right, Mark?
Oh, absolutely. And multi-cloud and cross-platform. And then the next piece there is that Azure Arc that really shows how those native Azure capabilities, that cloud native security, once we translate and say this is an AWS thing that's projected into an Azure object, a GCP thing, an on-premise server, on-premise database, AWS database, etc. Once those show up in there, we can apply all that Azure goodness to them and all those security investments that we've made. And so it really allows us to extend that power and security within the Azure platform to your entire estate.
Cool. So at the end, customers can use Azure Arc and the Azure capabilities like Secure Score, compliance reporting, Azure Policy, Azure Defender, asset management, and much, much more, right? And also have a unified multi-cloud view of security posture, integrating AWS Security Hub and GCP Security Command Center, detected misconfigurations and findings in Secure Score. So it's amazing how you can use that to protect a multi-cloud, a hybrid environment, and improve your secure posture in different environments, right?
It's so critical, especially with all these advanced nation state attacks and ransomware attacks, to have that real good visibility and control to be able to fix those issues. So, that's why we invest in this, to really keep our customers safe.
Cool. So, Mark, I think that we are at the end. So thank you very much to invite me to this conversation. It was really a pleasure to talk to you and customers. And I think that this presentation shows that we accept our responsibility to create a safer digital world, right? So allowing the customers and organizations to transform, right? And that's why we are committed to create solutions and develop security solutions, not only to protect Microsoft environments, but also to protect multi-cloud and hybrid environments, right?
Absolutely. And we hope this was useful for y'all watching, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. See you soon. Bye-bye.